Hi there, friends. I'm Peregrine from the Museum of Life and Science in Durham, North Carolina. Today is the day NASA will land the first rover on Mars in nearly a decade. The Perseverance rover will search for signs of life, collect the first samples that will be returned to Earth in a future mission, and pave the way for human explorers. Joining us today to talk about this mission is Mars lead scientist Adrian Brown. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, Adrian.
Thanks, Peregrine. It's great. Thanks for the interest from down in Durham, North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely. So what an exciting day. Perseverance will be the first rover to land on Mars since Curiosity in 2012. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes this mission special?
Sure, yeah. The most exciting thing for me is the possibility that we might actually find biosignatures on Mars. So biosignatures are evidence of past life on Mars. So if we're able to find those, then that will be a game changer, not just for me or for scientists, but for everyone around the world, because we'll be answering a question that has plagued us through the ages: was, are we alone? We'll be able to answer that, no, we're not alone. There was life that got started on Mars.
I am also that sounds so excited. I'm excited about it. Absolutely. It doesn't sound like landing a rover from a planet away is easy. Can you tell us what's going to be going through your mind during the landing?
Yes, so I'm actually a scientist, so I don't have anything to do with the entry into descent and landing. That's all the engineers. That's all the engineers' work. And the JPL engineers who built the rover are in charge of getting us down there. So I'm just going to be very nervous and hoping that they did it all correctly, and so that they can hand over the keys to the rover to the scientists in a month's time, and everything will be working correctly. That's really what I'm hoping. But yeah, today is like a fantastic climax to the work that all those JPL engineers have been working on now for 8 years to get us down to the surface. It's awesome.
Wow, that is so awesome. Can you tell us a little bit, like, what exactly is going to happen once it lands? What is it going to be doing?
Right. So we'll have there's a period of about 11 minutes between us finding out about the rover landing on the surface and us finding out about it, because it takes us 11 minutes to get those signals back from Mars. And we don't have any way to get involved in the landing as well. So that's completely autonomous. But as soon as it gets down on the surface, we'll start to get some photos back from the surface. So that's what we'll be looking at first. That'll be happening today. That's like mind-blowing for me for those words to come out of my mouth. But yes, we'll be looking at those first pictures of our landing site today. They'll be coming from engineering cameras next to our rover wheels, because when we land, we'll be in this type of a situation where we don't have, our rover mast hasn't been deployed yet.
I hear that it's going to be collecting samples of Martian rock and soil. What's going to happen to those samples?
Right. That's the second most important thing about this rover, is that it has the capability to collect samples. And so we're drilling into the rocks that we'll be coming across and collecting them in these little vials that are about the size of your finger, but they're made of titanium to protect the samples inside them. We'll be able to get 30 of these samples back, because we're now launching in 2026, we'll be launching what's called the Mars Sample Return mission. And that will be a small rover called the Sample Fetch rover. Doesn't have a cool name just yet, but it's going to waddle up to Perseverance and get the 30 samples from it, or catch them when they've fallen out of the rover. And those samples are going to come back to Earth. And in 2031, we'll get those samples in our hands, in our laboratories. So for any high school students or college students right now, they could be the first to crack open these samples and get to analyze them and work out, all these mysteries that we've got about Mars.
Wow. That is so amazing, the idea that we'll be able to get samples from Mars on Earth. I'm also really interested in the prospect of paving the way for human exploration on Mars. Can you tell us about how this mission sets the stage for future human missions to Mars?
Right. So we have a number of different experiments that we're doing, including one that's called the MOXIE instrument, which is creating oxygen inside the rover. So that's the first time that we've done that. And that's obviously really important because at the moment, Mars doesn't have a hospitable or enough oxygen for us to breathe. But in the future, we could actually change that. That's what's so cool about Mars, is that we could terraform the planet. In the process of warming the atmosphere, we would need a lot of oxygen. So that MOXIE experiment is the first step in our terraforming, in gaining more knowledge about our terraforming process.
Wow, there's so many kind of firsts and special things about this rover, including that Perseverance will kind of be allowing us to hear what Mars sounds like for the first time. What are you most interested in hearing, or like, what do you expect to hear? What do you think?
So we have 2 cameras actually on board the rover. So that's, another new thing about the rover's instruments. So we have one of them is designed to hear the sounds of the entry, descent, and landing. So we'll be able to replay the tape and work out what sounds were made when the parachute was deployed, what sounds were made when the rockets were fired, what sounds were made when the rockets were fired and to get away from the rover, and the rover was dropped onto the surface. So all of that will be captured in an audio. So hopefully we'll be able to see that pretty soon after the landing. And then we also have another instrument that has called SuperCam on board the rover, which has got a camera, a microphone as well, which will be listening for the laser. It has a laser that is firing out at the rocks. And the rocks go rat-a-tat-tat when we hit them, because the rocks are actually being plasmarized. They're being heated up so much by the laser that they sort of melt a little bit. And we look at them as they're melting to try and work out what they're made of. So it's super cool technology. But now we can actually hear that happening as well. That adds a new dimension to what we can learn about the rocks as well. Super cool stuff.
That is such cool stuff.
Yeah.
Can I ask you what you will be doing with some of the information that's coming back?
Right. So I'm actually, I'm really interested in, if we do find any evidence of life that's past life on the planet, then I'm immediately asking the question as a scientist. When you find out something as a scientist, generally it starts you thinking about 10 more questions. It always happens this way. So if we do find life or evidence of biosignatures, then we'll want to be answering questions like, well, how similar was that life to us? How, did we get started at the same time as Mars, or, did our life, is life on Mars completely separate? Is it not even DNA related? Those sort of questions will be things that we'll be trying to answer from the samples. And when we have the samples back, the 30 samples that we collect, and those will be the ones that we really want to find out more about from looking at them for the biosignatures back in our lab. So those sort of things that the next generation scientists will be looking at. And also, we'll be having a whole new suite of instruments over the next decade to try and really up our game. And we're even building, NASA is now investing in a huge facility that will be used to house the samples. And we're thinking about ways that we'll release the samples out to the various people out around the country and around the world as well.
That sounds so amazing. I'm so excited for that research to get started, or continue, I guess, is a better way of looking at it.
Yes.
Speaking of continuing research, I think my last question would be, is there any chance that Perseverance will be able to see its cousin Curiosity?
Yeah, that's a good question, but actually we don't think so. But I wouldn't despair, because Curiosity is on another, miles away from on the other side of the planet, really. But because we actually have a helicopter on board as well, the third most cool thing about this mission is that we'll actually have cameras. We do have cameras, 2 really good cameras on board the helicopter, and they'll be able to take images of the rover as the helicopter takes off and does it has 5 practice flights that we're going to be doing. So we'll get pictures of the rover from the helicopter, and we'll get pictures of the helicopter from the rover as well. So those 2 will make a great team. Unfortunately, Curiosity won't be in on the act, but we'll tell him about it. We'll send him some, texts or something, I guess.
I love that you'll be able to make contact in that way. Can I ask just what else should we know?
Yeah. So today being landing day, everybody should go to NASA to mars.nasa.gov. We will have a live broadcast from there from 11 a.m. Eastern. So that's for people in Durham. That'll be 11 a.m. That'll be 11 a.m. Pacific. So that's
I
3
think it's around 2, maybe.
Yeah, 2 p.m. here. So yeah, on the East Coast, 2 p.m. and you should go to NASA, mars.nasa.gov for that live broadcast. That's the best way to connect, and also to learn more about the rover, as we go through the mission and discover so many more cool things.
It seems, yeah, definitely, like you were saying, kind of the more questions we ask, the more questions pop up. So I hope that when people have inevitable questions, as I do, about all of the cool things about this mission and this rover, they know where to go. Well, Adrian, what an amazing time in space exploration. Thank you so much for the part that you have played in it, and thank you for talking with us today. We will all keep our eyes and ears on the sky and eagerly await what Perseverance has to show us.
Thanks, Perrin, and go Perseverance.
Thank you so much. So long and good luck.
Thank you.